Welcome
Thank
to
you
What's
guys
Your
so much for having me.
You're welcome. Sorry. I love it. Welcome to What's Your Sign. I'm Julia Loken.
I'm Stevie Goldstein.
I'm Lisa Chanou.
And today we are joined by a very special guest, model, writer, founder of the Third Cup community, newly released Oracle deck creator, the Realist Oracle, and now fellow podcaster, host of the Eldest Daughter podcast. It's Kendra Austin.
That's right. Thank you guys so much for having me. I am so excited. I have been a long-time listener. I think I reached out to each of you also literally probably 2 or 3 years ago to send you underwear.
Oh my God. Yes. You gave from,
yes.
That was the parade underwear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was like, still.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. I used to do astrological consulting for Parade. And so cool. I sent them, so we like worked on this whole line of astrology panties, and that's when I first came into contact with your guys' pod. So now it feels like it's really full circle.
Yes.
Now that I've done the full deep dive into my own crystal bitchness.
I love those
and we're
underwear
all just
too.
meeting in a good place. They're good, huh?
I'm still wearing them.
Like even the colors and everything like worked for my side. Whatever it was good, you know?
Agreed.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And I feel like it was I had the fire sign pack and there was like a fuchsia almost color, and it's like one that I never pick, but it's one that gets like assigned to me all of the time as a Sag, and I'm like, yeah, it's that is the color.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Sometimes color chooses you, you know?
And I'm like, it's not, but it just keeps coming up, and putting on those underwear helps step into that power.
Period.
I remember too at that time it felt very like, oh, we are Astro cool girls now. We got the parade underwear,
right? The parade stamp.
Yes,
yes,
it was like cool, because I remember like starting to see some of them pop up, and I was like, wonder when those will land in the old mailbox. And then and then we've been internet friends. I feel like, you know, like a good internet friendship. I feel like I know you. I've been lurking and observing and fanning, so it's so fun to chat for the first time.
Yes,
absolutely. And this is my absolute favorite thing to talk about ever, and now I get to do it in a space where it's welcome, so I really am so grateful to you guys.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Well, speaking of your internet presence, I feel like this will lead into everything. It's in the chart, it's on the grid. I guess Third Cup would maybe be the container for this too. But I mean, you're creating so many cool community events. You are typically on the East Coast, so we're not able to attend these. But I mean, the community that you're creating and the events that you're putting on and all of this that you're bringing together. I mean, one, just like we see you, that's fantastic. It looks amazing. And how is that going? How did that start? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Third Cup was kind of like my ode. It truly was me following my Aquarian path. I think that's one thing that's been so gorgeous for me about really being such an astro enthusiast, is that I'm really using it as a tool for me to understand what my message is, and, you know, in this particular life. And I came to a place where I was like, I was literally seconds away from leaving my Saturn return, which I have a 29-degree Saturn and Aquarius.
We saw.
And I said, exactly. And so I said, what is my responsibility to my community? And, you know, I'd always felt naturally quite alienated from the spaces that I really wanted to be a part of, because they were kind of always founded on pieces of me. So like, when I've have ADHD, I've always been a hyper fixation girly. And so I kind of always fell into these like extreme interests. Like, it's like I joined a pottery studio, or I'm going to take a painting class, or like, you know, I'm in fashion, I'm in all these media spaces. And I always kind of felt like on the outside of the cool girl circle. And that was something that I carried with me from like childhood, of being just on it straight up a weirdo, and in the best way imaginable. And I feel like, as like an ode to like kind of sealing up that grief and that feeling of loneliness, I was like, I want to be able to provide people the sense of authentic connection that I had to work really, really hard to find myself. And that's why I feel so celebrated and so loved at this really important time in my life, where I feel like I'm coming into my own, I'm coming into my sense of belonging. as, you know, in huge part of like female friendship. And yeah, I wanted to be able to offer that to other women. And a place like New York, obviously there are so many people and so many different kinds of people, and that's why we all gravitate towards New York or to places like New York or LA, is that you're just hoping to kind of win the numbers game, right? And finding people who are more like you and who have kind of that common understanding about what we're doing here. And at the same time, it feels so lonely when you cannot find them because you know that they're there.
Yeah.
So I felt that if I used intention and specificity to be clear about the necessity to be emotionally available for friendship in the same way that we need to be for romantic partnerships, for a level of commitment and a level of earnestness and vulnerability, that the exact right people would find the space and want to come to our dinner parties, to our meditation classes, to our run club, to our book club. And that is exactly who the fuck shows up. Like, there are hundreds of women that have come to these events at this point, and all of them are so incredibly sweetie pie angel and earnest and motivated to find connection that is deep and strong and long. And I mean, the number of women that have reached out to me since even coming to one of my events to be like, we're in a group chat now and we go on walks together, or we're going to play tennis now, or we're going to get into this hobby. It's like that. That's everything I could have ever asked for. So it's very much beyond me at this point, which is exactly what I hope for it.
Yes.
Whoa.
Well, that's so beautiful. I mean, everything that you said is really pinging so many things for me, but I think it's really beautiful, the idea of taking that wounding of feeling isolated and using that to be the catalyst for creating that space for other people, because I think that those things stay with us for so long, and they also make it the reason why we don't make these groups. Even though we want to see these groups ourselves, we want to be a part of them, we want to be invited to them, but it does feel like I know something for me personally is always kind of like, you know, I want to be invited to this thing, but I don't necessarily want to be one who makes it, because I don't know who's going to show up. I don't know who's going to be there. Who are these people, and what does that reflect back about us? And I think you clearly are just in such a place, and it sounds like, well, hard fought and well earned and created and cultivated for yourself too, but in that way of like being able to really embrace everyone that shows up for you as like meant for you in a way that's non like, I don't know, that's really cool. And I think thinking of those big cities too, of it being a bunch of people who are looking for community, but also are these individual people working on their own projects, coming from the places that you all come from, feeling that same sense of loneliness and isolation, that it's like, of course you think it's going to be an automatic thing in a big city. Like, oh, of course there's going to be all these group meetups and people. I'll, you know, swing a cat and hit somebody that I want to hang
you'll
out
find
with.
Somebody.
Yeah, but it does take a long time. It's so hard because I think are all in that place of being used to being kind of outsiders or lonely or just scared. I mean, you just have a lot of friendship pain. I feel like friendship pain is not a thing that we talk about enough.
Devastating.
Yes.
It's devastating. It's devastating. And I think in the same way that we don't talk about the grief, I also think that we don't engage enough of an understanding of that friendship connection is all connection has a baseline. Like, there is a baseline that you have to be at in order to find any connection that makes sense for you. And that requires availability. Like, you have to try. And all we ever hear is about how much we need to try to find a partner. But all the qualities that you're looking to tap into to find a partner without any of the trauma is exactly what you need to do to find friends. You have to show up, you have to plan dates, you have to meet them where their joy is, you have to ask them about themselves with really deep and intentional questions, and you have to be willing to share. And those are things that I don't think people think about a lot, because so many of us originally found friends through convenience, right? So like school, like after school,
like this person's assigned to you, basically.
Yeah, they're like even compulsory environments.
Yeah, or like like growing up, like so many kids with the same last name would be friends because you literally had lockers next to each other. You were like in alphabetical order, so you just like end up hanging out with all the A last name kids.
I still thought it was fate. I was like, it makes sense that me and Chelsea Anderson, we should be besties.
Yes.
No, exactly.
Meant to be one true pair in alphabetical order.
I think if there's anyone to talk about friendships, I mean, you really talking about the 29-degree Saturn. I mean, you have a 0-degree Aquarius sun and you have planets in between. So it's really the like runs the gamut of the sign. And I'm sure that becomes difficult when things are transiting there, because it's like gonna hit another thing and then another thing and then another thing. And same
I'm a pinball machine.
Same
That's
like
right.
when, Venus is retrograde in Leo currently, and you're gonna have oppositions and squares from Taurus and stuff. How do you feel about having all that Aquarius? Does it feel, I mean, obviously it feels natural to me from the outside, but what about on the inside?
Right. I mean, it feels like tension. It feels like I am constantly being electrocuted. Honestly.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the way like I charge up and I gain a superpower, but I lose a sense of humanness. Like I feel like every time there is like a huge astrological shift, and obviously right now we're also like Saturn is the name of the game. Aquarius and Capricorn has been the name of the game for like 8 years, and I am tired. So that is my whole chart. I have one placement that's not that, right? So that is, and then that one placement is squared like everything. So it does feel so charged. And at the same time, all of my message, all the things that come from those transits are so painstakingly clear. I can't really miss the message. You know what I mean? Like I always say that to people whenever they see my chart. I'm like, the good news is that I'm one kind of person. The bad news is that I'm one kind of person. It's like my messages are going to come so consistently in the same exact way, and I need to like figure it out. But also it's like I'm so fixed that I'm really stubborn to that. I'm stubborn to learn the lesson often. But yeah, I think that it feels like electricity. I think having, especially because it is also Aquarius.
It's like already kind of electrical.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a little screen share just for our folks watching on YouTube. That's right, we're on YouTube. What's Your Sign podcast on YouTube. And I'll go back to full screen because I like seeing all our faces together. But just want to give a little. There,
Yes,
I thought. Hello. I mean, just like.
I mean,
I'm embarrassed.
Are you?
Don't be embarrassed at all.
No way. It's
very I mean, there's so much to be seen in the front, right? But then also talking about the friendship stuff. I mean, Jupiter and Scorpio in this 11th friendship community space, and this like big T square to Venus too. So much of like benefic joy with like these moon fields of Taurus. So like, yeah, I mean, you're definitely fixed as fuck and earthy as fuck. I mean, maybe the only thing I know we're never really lacking, right? It's like maybe fire. But do you seek out fire or fire like things in different sorts of ways?
All of my friends are Leos or Cancers. Literally all of them. That's what I'm missing, right? The water and the fire. So I definitely tend to gravitate towards people and environments that really ignite that. I even love being around water. I love like doing things that help me tap into that. I think it brings a lot of clarity for me to kind of help shift a lot of that fixedness. Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, you're right. Like there is something that could kind of be a balm to what I think is the only way. Like I often feel like there's only one way to be, right? Because that's how I'm experiencing my life as somebody whose all my placements are in one place.
So many
and like all in.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it varies. Like it feels so often like a sink or swim or all or nothing approach that I'm asked to take in my career and my love life. And I think that like, especially as I've gotten older, having friends who have different modalities, right? But in general, I tend to also go towards other fixed and cardinal energy. But I think that like having people of different elements really, really helps me like kind of soften and also really like jazzes me up. Like without any fire around me, I will get very earthy in the like, I'm seeing an obstacle and it's physical. And so there's no way for me to focus on anything else but this physical obstacle, whether it's like money or space. And then I have my Leos and they're like, bitch, do you want it? What's the question here? You know what I'm saying? I would have done it yesterday. Yeah, exactly. I would have done it yesterday. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. So I think that is very
Interesting.
helpful for me.
Oh, well, and also thinking of Leos with your 0 degree sun too, like in illuminating that sun or illuminating the lunar parts of you, like looking at your chart, having your 7th and 8th houses be Cancer and Leo. Those are also your like pretty committed people too. So I know a fixed, it's all about we're fixed gang here. So a lot of loyalty and like, do you fuck with me?
We should also say,
do you fuck with me? Yes or no?
Yeah. We should also
Check the
say
box.
that we're looking at the chart in whole sign, which isn't what we normally do. So just for people who have
if
watched
they're like,
before.
did you switch?
Who are looking,
respecting the I see you use whole sign. We'll throw it up.
Yes.
Right. Honestly, I'm just.
Is that your preference, or do you have a preference?
You know,
do you feel comfortable sharing?
Oh,
I wouldn't. You know what? I wouldn't say it's a preference. Actually,
okay.
I'm really, really open. I think that like right now, that's like kind of my study. And I think the simplicity of like just being able to visualize, and when somebody asks me, I like know roughly where their stuff is going to be. I appreciate the ease of that approach, but at the same time, it's like, I originally learned from astrologers who obviously were looking at Placidus charts and were able to say like, you have these two different energies in this house. And I often resonate with that. For example, with my 7th house, having both Leo and Cancer there makes sense to me. Those are the people that I gravitate towards the most that kind of have this. And I also quite literally have had one of my longest like romantic trysts has been with the Leo with the Cancer moon. So
you have a
I said, you know what? It connects.
You have that. You have that exalted moon, and I think that while you do have a traditionally like debilitated sun, if we're talking about not in actuality, because I don't think anyone would look at your presence and go, that sun is having trouble. I think your sun is shining very brightly. But I do think that those like both of those powers are strong in your chart and definitely are like both co-present. And so I think that cardinal and fixed energy and those like, I don't know, not they're like you said, it's like one type of person, but it still is even one type of person has like sun and moon. We can't just be like all anything. And so to have those two stronger, I think that like cardinal and fixed not support each other more, but I think that they are the intensity level feels accurate. Yes, exactly. As opposed to mutable in cardinal or whatever, mutable is coming in and HRing all of the things. Mutable could be whatever it is, but it's more like matching the energy as opposed to it being like different, but the same intensity level. So I do think that cardinal and fixed energies do have a more like, while they aren't necessarily traditionally compatible or in the astrological kind of way you'd say, I do think that they like can hold their own with each other.
Totally.
In Placidus, they're in the same house too. I mean, it's all that stuff's right there in the first. Most of it, obviously, Saturn, but also the opposing house being half Cancer and half Leo. So it's like the same thing. Like, it's just an example of how astrology can make the same argument in different ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it also feels, and we can maybe use this as a segue to talk about your podcast too, of like your assigned role versus your comfortable, authentic self role kind of thing. And cardinal being, your podcast Eldest Daughter, talking about these roles that we feel like we need to step into because that is what is assigned to us as our, sibling role or as our parents' first, project or whatever. So here's the things that we know we can kind of like live into, but what's actually comfortable for me, to me, feels very much like that shift from cardinal to fixed, being at like, I can do whatever, but I prefer to me, fixed energy is so much about preference and about like, this is the kind of energy I like. And I kind of only like to be this one kind of thing. Not that fixed people can't change and do the things, but it's like, no, this is the speed that this works at. This is the temperature that this cooks at. This is whatever. And kind of learning your temperature coming from that, like Capricorn rising into Aquarius sun.
Yes.
Things.
Yes. I mean, I would even say, I love that. Cause I would even say within within myself, I observe like the dichotomy of like will and direction. So I always say like the fixedness in me is my will, right? It's like,
yeah,
this is my constitution and I'm going to freak it with this constitution. And then my cardinal signs is like, but where are we going, bitch? You know what I'm saying? Like you can't just like, you're not a tree though, right? Like you have a will, but you also need to be going somewhere. And I think that's kind of where I like to play, is like that kind of alchemy between like, you have a divine will, you have things that you really, really enjoy. You also have somewhere that you'd like to go. So what are you willing to sacrifice to make this happen? And that is kind of the constant, the constant conversation that I have going on in my mind and spirit. It's like, how can we kind of meet these two minds within us, the will and the direction?
Oh, I love that. Well, it's like, I feel like, with conjunction or like super conjunction stelliums, I think there can be so much relief from people because they're like, I only have to learn a couple signs and it makes astro super easy. But then also the tunnel vision can be quite real. And I mean, you're only
the Achilles.
And you're real only, I think it's kind of beautiful that your only mutable placements are Chiron and the nodes, like there's so much about our path, the history and the future. And then also that key with Chiron and Virgo too in the 9th house, which is really like exploring and expanding in this Virgo way, where I think Virgo gets so like, they have to have it this way, but it's mutable Earth too. And it can learn to go with that flow. I guess, have you thought much about these kind of mutable bonus feature, not traditional planets, like once you kind of get more into astronomy, right, with Chiron and the nodes, like it's a fun little portal to get into.
It's actually so interesting that you asked that, because right now that is what I'm trying to figure out. I'm like, what does this mean for me? Specifically with my Sagittarius North Node being in my 12th house, it's very confusing and mystifying for me. I literally don't know what that means, which I think is hilarious. I think it's
that might be its thing, Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I'm saying? That's literally the point. I'm like, I don't know what that means. I think that like the nodes themselves have kind of played out really clearly for me in that those are the only spaces where I've ever, that axis, the Gemini Sag axis, is the only place where I've ever allowed myself to move quickly. So that's not shocking to me. I have always hated traditional learning environments. I've always been very good at them, which I think is the South Node thing, right? It's like you've mastered that, and then you. So it's like I've always been naturally good at them. I've always hated them because of authority. So there's the Aquarius and the Capricorn also tapping into that. And because I don't believe that anybody can really tell me what I'm good at, and I don't like traditional metric systems. But that only really happened for me when I chose to go far. So like when I was growing up, I grew up in like a military family, and then my mom was like a traveling professional. So I never really had like a consistent physical space. And then when I graduated high school, I chose to go to the school that was the farthest away. And then when I graduated college, I went to the city that was the farthest away. That made sense for me. And so like, I think that in those small ways, doing the Sag thing where I wanted to learn from kind of the sink or swim of going to a new experience, an entirely different experience, to find out on my own what that felt like and kind of put my hand on the stove. That is, I think, the only space that I've really, really been like tapped into when it comes to my mutability. And that felt intrinsic to me once I kind of had what I say is like my early life crisis. And I was like, all of this that I've been doing.
When was that?
I was like, what age would you say?
Well, kids, it would have been 23.
Okay.
No.
Oh, okay. That's that year
I'm like,
sucks. So that makes
yeah,
sense.
exactly. That's a 12th house, right?
Jupiter and
Return
and 12th house perfection year.
Yeah, exactly. That was 12th house perfection, and boy, did I feel it. And I did struggle. That year I struggled with like a lot of like codependency. I had these really explosive homoerotic relationships with my female friends, and I had these like,
I was like,
you know,
where's this going? I'm excited.
At the time, I didn't realize I was gay, you know, but it was like
Mhm.
I was having these like very like explosive like codependent relationships with female friends. I had a very codependent relationship with a partner who was like so lovely but psychologically very tormented, and I was struggling with like a lot of like addictive behavior, and those were things that just all like made sense. And it was also just an escape from the fact that I did not know who I was. And I had gone down one route because I said, this is where we're going. There was no direction. There was only will. I was like, this is, or excuse me, there was no will, only direction. I was like, this is where we're going. And this is where I was told I'm going to go to be successful and to find belonging and for people to be proud of me. And once I graduated college, I was like, I don't want to do any of this. Like, I literally was like, I'm going to be the first Black female president of the United States. That is what I thought from age 0 to 22. And I was planning on going to law school. I studied Middle Eastern Studies, Government and Philosophy in college at the University of Texas.
Libra 10th house. Okay. I mean, it still could happen.
Justice.
Yeah.
That's right. It was always justice for me. That's exactly right. I was like, I want to affect change in the lives of people. I want to make them feel safer and more comfortable in the world. That was always true for me. And so I think that I just felt I had to go through these like very traditional paths. And I wanted prestige really badly in order to make it happen. And I actually kind of hit like a wall around my like my junior year of college, where I was like, I actually can't, like, I think I also just had an emotional crisis of like, I can't do things that I don't want to do. And again, I think that's the mutability tapping in.
And very Aquarian. Like at the end of the day, like, actually, I fucking hate all this shit. So I will not.
Deviate too far, but did you know at that time that you had ADHD too, or no?
No. Oh no. Because
I think that
rearing its head.
Because I think that is, as a fellow ADHD person, I also think that is like around an age where especially if you've been able to excel academically and all of those things, you do kind of reach a burnout point or like the affirmations that you are getting from the institutions and things like that are no longer enough, because you're like, this is so hard to maintain, like to hold this together. And if all I'm getting is like literally an A on a paper or like a pat on the back or something like that, like that's not enough. I need like way more.
Exactly.
Way more for this to be worth the kind
to
of
be hitting.
I need
to mainline.
I need like a heroin level of something, or else I cannot be backbending like this. And that kind of like, and again, that like affirmation for the parts of you that you know are also like protecting these other real parts of you, not real parts of you, because I don't like using that kind of terminology, because I feel like it deviates yourself within yourself, but like still that same like, oh, this isn't making me happy, but people are happy about this. And that how that really can lead you to these other kind of codependent things, or these other things where, oh, someone else who knows me deeply, who loves me, who whatever, like how it bleeds into all of these other aspects of life.
Totally. And like, no matter what, it's like, I was always going to feel really strongly about people. So I think that once I like tapped into having these like really strong adult relationships, they were the like norepinephrine, they were that dopamine hit that I was looking for, that I no longer was going to find in these institutions because I didn't care. And as you know, like with the ADHD, it's like you have to care. That the fixation is the only thing that's going to get you through. And I, like you said, it's just like it kind of tapped out. And then I just entered the like former gifted child to burnout pipeline. And the self-discovery that happens after that. And like, I mean, thank goddess for it. Truly. Like because I finally also faced other people's disappointment for the first time in my life. I could see in like my mom's eyes for the first time, like confusion and disappointment. She was like, who is this? Like, because at that point I was fully coasting on that Capricorn rising and Mars holding me down, you know? And I think that like for the first time I was like looking at people's eyes and I could tell that they were confused. Like I went to one of my like oldest childhood friends. She got married very young, like right after college. And at that point I had decided that I was going to move to New York. I was like, I moved to New York. I had been scouted by like a modeling agency on Instagram. And even though we decided to not like move forward, I was like, this is my sign. Like I could feel that gut instinct of green like, flag. I have to go. This. Yeah. Exactly. And like, even if it's not, I knew it wasn't specifically that, it was that, and I knew it was that, and like the pipe, my hopeful pipeline to Oprah. I was like, that's the beginning, right? So once that kind of hit me, I was like, okay, I'm going. So I went to this wedding, and she was very, very close with our English. We both were very close to our English teacher, but she had a very close connection as well. And of course, we all did, because again, gay. But so,
and also shout out to all the English teachers. I was like, hell yeah,
honestly,
down for all of us.
Honestly,
weird, sweetie pie, astro loving.
We just needed them, and they needed us. Honestly,
mm-hmm.
So she was there. The teacher was there at the wedding, and I was like her star student. Like, I was her star student by a mile. And so she was really confused when I told her, like, I'm not going to grad school, and I'm actually not continuing any sort of career that makes sense to you, and I'm going to New York to model. And she was like, what? She was like, so what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to make, what are you going to do? How are you going to make money? Like, what do you mean? Like, you're a prolific writer. You do this. Like, how is that going to work?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just going home that night and sobbing, because I was like, everybody that I'd ever really, really wanted approval from felt like I could tell they were looking at me like I was a 45-year-old woman having a midlife crisis. And I was, but
you're 23. I'm mad at this teacher right now. I'm sorry.
Isn't that crazy?
I've taken on
people
anger.
project so much. I think on those, in that too, where it's like, this is a failure of my teach. I teach because I want them to do this. I want them to be a reflection of me, because they're going to have a good, sustainable career.
Totally.
You going off and doing your own thing doesn't say anything about me. And not that they're consciously doing that, but I mean, we all,
no. And everybody.
Well, that's not the path, right? Your path was windy and different.
I think it also just like scares people, and they want, I mean, in a good way, where they want to know that you are cared for. They see you as someone with potential that can, financially, materially be successful in this way. And it's, capitalism and all of that too. But I think
Wait,
this is I was making the chaotic choice.
Yeah.
It's making so much more sense too with this Sag North node and Chiron in the 9th house with Virgo. It's all really about how you're exploring knowledge. And I think too with Virgo, it's like, well, what's also the most sustainable thing for you to do? And it probably wasn't just to go the path you were assigned, even though Capricorn can run that scam for until they freak out, and like
until the wheels fall off.
Yeah, until they like have the office freak out and tell everyone that they hate them. But Aquarius, that's where the Uranus sort of mix comes in as well, where it's like, if it doesn't align, why then? Like, we only have one life, unless the reincarnation's there, and then we'll be bugs. But until then, we're here. We're here now.
Totally.
I don't believe that. Go ahead.
No, please continue.
Oh, I don't believe that you're ever wrong for following that voice that says it's time to go, it's time to try, it's time to. And I think that's why astrology is so important to me, because it allows for you to say, yeah, I might grow into this thing later. I have potential here. You're able to look at things and say, like, I can try to do that. Or, I don't really use it to be like, this tells me no, but I guess some people do.
Well, even if what you said was like really important too, for maybe people who are 23 right now and going through it, is like, and this happened when, I moved around like 24, 25, still like post that time, pre-Saturn return, was like, I just want to be somewhere different. So even if this doesn't work, I'm on a new path, and it will unfold.
Totally.
We'll go from there.
Exactly.
The phrase that you use specifically about going like, this is maybe not the thing, but this is like a step to the thing, to me is very Sag North node in the 12th house of it, going like, you actually don't need to know all of the
whole
details.
Pictures.
Yeah.
But you have permission to follow that thing that says, hey, do that, like, go with that. The rest of it you can figure out. You actually don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to have an idea of where you are, like what you are aiming for in this term. And so if you're getting that pull, that's a reason enough to follow. Because I agree with what you were saying, Lisa, too, of that being like, I think astrology is such a powerful permission slip for people to do things that feel out of character, because now you have an access to the full depth of what is all of the multitudes that you contain. And even if you do have, you know, crazy stelliums that are all in one thing, there are still these outliers in there that go like, hey, that maybe doesn't feel quite like the me that I know, but it doesn't mean it's not.
Yeah,
totally.
And I think we all just need like reasons to do things. We're always looking for something to say, to push us in a direction. And it's like, if this is the thing, if looking at this circle with a symbol tells you like, this is okay, that's the reason, then go run
completely. Like, you know what's interesting too about you kind of nodding to that 12th house placement with Sag is like, I think that my life became a lot more fulfilling and a lot less stressful when I also realized that was a part of like my mysticism, like a part of kind of my magnetism, was that I actually have never really needed reasons to do things. I was like obsessed with finding them, I think, in virtue of being able to explain to other people.
Yes.
But once I divorced the desire to explain anything to anybody, that became literally obsolete. And I realized that like, that's kind of my magic. I think that people are consistently asking me why I'm doing something and very confused about my next move. It's very like everything everywhere all at once, I feel, is what I'm trying to tap into now, is like, you don't know what's coming next because neither do I. And that's the good news. You know, like I'm going to like just simply go towards my joy. I think that I actually even wrote about this today, and I went into the Grove yesterday.
Okay.
And I went to the Grove yesterday.
This is some sad 12th house.
I know.
Shit right
I went to the Grove yesterday. I went to the Grove yesterday just to feel something.
Yeah.
And
it's a great place to feel a lot of things, I gotta say.
No, exactly. So I went to go find a pair of designer glasses, but then to my right, I realized was Barnes and Noble. So I walked inside and I was like, wait, I just published something. Let me go see if it's in here. And it was there, and it was dead ass in the middle of the section. And I watched people literally sell out my deck in real time.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh.
And it was a very powerful moment for me. Anyway, I had a friend with me. She videotaped it. I posted about it today. And in the caption, I was kind of like reflecting on like this project. The Realist Oracle feels really powerful for me because it was the first thing that I did again in my Saturn return. It was the first project that really came to me with ease, and that literally my editor reached out to me and said, I follow your newsletter, which I also just started because it was Fuck It, We Ball. And I just wanted to share myself more vulnerably. I had been on Instagram being hot, cute, sexy, fun for like 3 years. And I'd really limited the part of myself that I'd once been congratulated for, which was my intellect. And so I kind of wanted to marry the two and start sharing more of my writing and getting more in touch with an audience directly, rather than having to go through like contributing or through publications and stuff, which I had done. So I started the newsletter, and an editor reached out to me. He's like, hey, like, you know, do you have kind of any projects we thought you might want to do, like a self-guided journal? Like, that's kind of what you talk about a lot, whatever. And I was like, actually, like, I had spent at that point, the entirety of the pandemic in lockdown collecting divination materials. That was my fixation. I just became obsessed with them. Like, I'm like an OG crystal bitch. Like, my mom was one. Like, I've been in this game for a while, but I felt like it didn't really, like, something just gravitated. I was just gravitating towards decks. Like, I just love the art. I love the translation from writer to reader. Like, all of that was really fascinating to me. And so when she reached out, I was like, this is what I want to do. And I knew that it would come as kind of like a surprise. Like, oh, you're doing that? Like, what does that mean to you, or why? And like, I was able to bring in a friend of mine that I had for a long time, who like I'd wanted to work with for years and just didn't have the budget for her. And I was like, girl, we got a publishing money, which is a hilarious thing to say because it doesn't exist. So then you know, it was
you took the last drop of it. That's
totally,
been out there.
totally. And she had like literally just left her full-time, like that the week that I proposed this project to her, she had just left her full-time job. And so it just kind of all came in ease. Yeah, it came in ease. But all of that to say that I felt like this project was such a reminder to me that like I could just like there is no one path. Like I just want to create my own magic
Mm-hmm.
and see what I can do with nothing. Like see what I can do with just a little inspiration and just see if it sticks for me.
Well, if it's something you like,
yeah,
that helps.
Yeah,
right?
That's it. That's it. And that's the whole picture, right? I was like, I just like it. Like that is enough of a reason. And like I've studied it. I have these relationships. I have this community behind me. Like, and I also just know. I just know. That's it. I know. So yeah, it felt really good to me. And now I'm starting to understand that is kind of, I think that 12th house component is I'm just doing it.
I love that, as also thinking of the 12th house as kind of a subconscious, but also an unknown destination, like things coming from places that we aren't knowing. So this project itself being something that came to you from something not outside of yourself, because it was from your newsletter and all these things, but someone else kind of reaching out to you from the beyond, so to speak. But I also like it as the divination tool itself, because I feel like it is very saggy in its like, it's called the realist, and it is about, it's not to say that Sag isn't like magical too, but there's like funny stuff. Right. There is realistic stuff. It's very, playful and fun, also powerful, but in that Sag kind of 12th house way of like, this is your funny, like giving you a real read oracle deck. And that feels very 12th Sag to me too, of it being like, who am I calling out to? It's someone that's going to be like, oh, you're crying on the subway. Like, right.
Exactly. It's like, again, be fucking for real. I'm like, there's a dating app. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, there's a dating app. My soulmate card, it's like a tall, gorgeous femme with her little stud boyfriend. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, that's funny. Like, I just wanted there to be as much representation of, I was like, we need to get real. Like, people shouldn't have to read into unnecessary language and be so deeply inaccessible.
Symbols, and I think that's very Gemini Sag too, of like symbols that people understand and can see and can immediately resonate with. And I think that is a powerful tool. Of course, when you're like, when I need an answer right away, I think tarot is something that can be something that is, or oracle decks, any kind of thing, is because it is so steeped in imagery, that it can feel overwhelming to people if they don't necessarily know, or it's a lot to unpack. It's a lot of layers, and having something so clear, I think is really powerful when you are coming to something where you want to be deeply impacted and affected and be like, who am I working with today? What is the meaning of all of this? I think when that can feel very clear and to the point and fun, like in a way that you go like, oh, this isn't not to say that it's not serious, but you know what I mean? Have some levity to it, to also then encourage you to go like, hey, it's not that serious. Like, we're going to get through this. This is a phase. This is a time period. This is a day. All of these things I think are all very, like of course of your chart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, with the tagline too of finding magic in the mundane, the realist oracle, the mundane feels just so Saturn's presence as well, right? Just like the things we have to do, the things that are just part of living and existing a life, but then also magicifying it, which I think that's the beautiful blend of Cap and Aquarius. But I had a deck question, but before I did, I want to ask a question just about being an internet person as an as a Aquarian expert, because
the most Aquarian thing about me.
I'm 11th housey, so I hard relate, and I think a question I get a lot of the time is about, especially because a lot of people who listen probably do have their own spiritual, magical, tarot, astrology, oracle practice, but then that there's such a like taboo of like, do people really want to hear this from me? The overshare. I'm curious if like anything ever snapped in place for you, or if anyone ever gave you advice, or was there a breakthrough for you of like not giving a fuck in terms of like of sharing yourself with an audience?
No, I think I have the opposite problem. I think I have the opposite problem, which is understanding what's for me and not for everybody. I think the most Aquarian thing about me is that I've kind of always felt like community. I've always felt like community property. Like even when I was a kid, it was like I would go up to the stinkiest, smelliest, meanest kid in the class simply because I hated the fact that he didn't have friends. Like, and even though it came at the expense of me and not being able to hang out with my friends, I was like, this has to happen for us, because the vibe is off if somebody here feels bad, and that's not rocking with me. So I think that, like, even just down to that level, that was always really important to me. And because of that, then when I experience a certain level of like emotional or intellectual alienation in like my teenage years, I ran to Tumblr. I dashed to Tumblr, as all the hot girls too. And that is where I really tapped into my oversharing, gift.
Yeah.
Except of course I did it behind like a veneer. Like Tumblr had that way for a while. I did run an anonymous account as well. So it was like Tumblr had that way of being able to provide a mask for you. And it was all very like chic and aesthetic and like intentionally dark. And I don't think it was really until like I had that kind of early life crisis and realized that I was getting the dopamine hit off of sharing myself as honestly as possible. Actually, nothing felt good to me except for being as honest and raw as possible, to my knowledge at that time. That's just where I was supposed to be. Like nothing ever felt as important as talking about myself.
Do you still
Hey.
Do you still feel like you'd go up to, now that the world is scary and we've had pandemic, do you still feel like you'd go up to the stinky?
Yeah, I still do.
God, I love that.
all of my romantic partners, basically. Honestly,
Stinky.
But
I love that.
Stinky, if not physically, energetically. You know what I mean? These days were definitely. I mean, I'm going to give myself a nod to my work. I've got some really nice people in my life. Actually, I only have nice people in my life, but that did come from kind of undoing that thing of being like, I have to sacrifice myself, my own comfort for like the greater collective. It's like, I don't like the idea that we live in a world that this person's just being rejected for no apparent reason. Like, there has to be, you know what I'm saying? We have to rectify the situation. I think that came from, again, my own like Aquarian alienation, my fear, if that people knew my weirdness in the same way that they could see that person's, that I would suffer the same fate, I think. So that's always felt really necessary for me.
So when are you launching your presidential campaign?
I know.
Give me a couple years, girls. Maybe the next. Am I even qualified?
I know. It's like when you're of age.
Yeah, you have to be old enough.
Okay, like 20. No, like 20 by 2020. Oh no, you'll still. Okay,
yeah.
So
we got time.
Keep eyes out for that launch. That will be the real plot twist. You know, you said you'd get into projects that are a little unexpected.
Totally. I don't think, honestly, I don't think that's a plot twist for anybody that's ever met me. I think they would say that sounds right. I always say, like, and this also might make sense for my entire birth chart, but I've always said, like, I think that goddess, the spirit, gave me a really, really good heart because they knew that I would become a vicious cult leader if it were not for that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There is like this part of me that I'm like, it could have happened.
This could have went evil.
I was born to do it.
The level of Aquarian, concentration there. I think you're right. I do think you're right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's that in tandem with like this like insatiable desire to like be a part of the mystic and like to understand it. And I also, belonging is like a part of everything that I create. Like, that's why I created the deck. My newsletter that I got my deal from is called Come Home. I have Come Home tatted on my body. Like, I'm writing a book. That is based on the concept of belonging. Like, these are all things that are really important to me, and that's what I seek to make people feel. I think in a different time, different space, if I had the heart to rob people of that for my own self-interest, it could happen.
Watch this space, when we'll join the Come Home, eco village in Costa Rica once it launches.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Honestly, and even then I would attempt it and it would just be utopia, girls. I'll be honest. That's all I got. That's all I got in me. That's all I got in me.
My deck question was, I'm just curious which card from your deck you either pulled today or are really vibing with, or like, is there a deck or a card from your deck right now that's like near and dear to your heart?
Oh my gosh. I wish I had one while I'm traveling right now, but yes, there are a few of them that I really, really love. My first one, my favorite card, and it was the card that I knew, that was probably the first card that I knew I was going to design. It's the Choose Love card, and it is inspired by the Lovers. It holds the same number as the Lovers in the major arcana. And it's like a woman, it's a micro shot of a woman holding her phone and looking on a dating app. And she's seeing a woman who like is wearing clothes that have similar like colorful themes as her nails. Like you can see distinctly that her nails have like a very specific design on them. Anyway, created that card to express that her finger is kind of in the middle of the right or the left. And I was using that as a modern expression of like, it's not, the decision itself is not what's important. It's about what you think is reflective of the choice that you're making within yourself and what part of you that you're choosing right now, and making it the most loving and authentic and mirror decision that you can of who you want to become and what you feel is most important to you. And like kind of being in that liminal space between right and left is what's really making that moment. It's not about the right or the left. It's that you're trying to look in the image of the people and the spaces around you and understand why you're making those choices. And obviously in context of today, like that could be a card that very literally is like, you know, I'm vibing with somebody I'm dating right now, and it just makes sense, right? It could be as literal as sometimes the Lovers is. But if we dive a little bit deeper into it, you know, that was kind of my intention behind the card. And I love the fact that it's like it looks so technical and obvious, but even in my description of the card, I kind of dive into that. And I think that's something that it kind of plays out throughout the entire deck. Is this like, it's very tender and very cutesy, and like right off the bat you're like, oh, like her nails, like that's a sleigh, and the girl in the thing, that's a sleigh, and it makes sense that she wants to be with her. But if you dive a little bit deeper, you're like, oh, okay, I see that like actually she hasn't made a decision, she's halting the decision. Why is she on dating apps? Like, what is she looking for? Maybe she doesn't even really want a partner right now. Maybe she just wants to, you know, sleep with somebody, or maybe she's looking for a friend. So kind of all of those things are what comes up under the Choose Love card, and I really like that.
I love that. I think it's so indicative too of how we make our choices, especially because in a relationship sense, I mean, I think on a dating app, the instinct, and maybe this is like my stuff showing, but it's like you're imagining a life with that person, and it can be a real fast no, it can be a real like oh yes, but it is kind of it is reflecting you know, because you're like, of course you're making an assumption about who the person is or whatever, but it's like, that's why people put a big fish or hiking pictures, because it's like they want you to imagine yourself doing active things with them and going on traveling and doing, instead of just like selfies, what can we imagine that we do at home when that's all we have or whatever.
Here's my big fish.
I love that.
I like thinking about also both of those things being both the person in the picture and the person doing the picking of like, I feel like getting your nails done is a choosing love for yourself and choosing to express something that you like about yourself, or a color that you like, or whatever. And then also seeing that, like you said, reflected back in someone else of being like, maybe they're not going to swipe on that person. Maybe they decide it's not, but it is still seeing love, seeing things about you that you love in the world and as an option, I think is always like the card Choose Love. It's that where it's like the, you know, the whether it's caring for yourself or seeing something, deciding to see yourself in another, to go like, maybe I'm not going to swipe on them, but I still see that people have potential, and I am somewhere to be found somewhere.
Wherever the opportunity for love is, that's what you're looking toward. That's exactly it. And my inspiration for that was like, I really had a super tumultuous relationship with literally anybody I've ever tried to find romantic partnership with, up until like 2020, when I got out of my last relationship. And then I was in my like celibacy era, you know what I'm saying? And was like really trying to dip into myself, trying to figure out where the self-defeating, self-sabotaging patterns were. And when I kind of like started to like kind of tiptoe back into the scene, like I realized, for example, the Leo with the Cancer moon that I referenced earlier, like he's somebody that's always had I've always had a really loving connection with. And he like kind of resurfaced right as I decided to exit my celibacy phase. And then I was like getting asked out left, right, and center, but like all these like really incredible options, right? And I was like, this is like, I'd never felt this way. Like I felt such defeat prior to this time in my life, where I was like, clearly there's something, you know, that shame inside me, brokenness inside me, that I felt like I was always looking to be affirmed in having partners that were unavailable to me. It was like, maybe there's something about me that like I've never even saw anybody even close to the kind of the level of potential that I'm looking for in a partner. Like, how is that possible? And that was immediately kind of like just obliterated through this experience after I had done the work, which is how it always happens. And most importantly, I was like realizing that all of these people were a reflection of who I decided that I like recently kind of come into these like desires of mine. One was to like really kind of break from the monotony and from the feeling of like delayed gratification. And the idea that I had to work really hard in order to have like a life of leisure and a life of enjoyment, and instead actually just go on trips and start traveling more and start saying yes to like romantic opportunities that I might not before, and be less concerned with like, is this the finality of my life? And all of these people were kind of reflective of parts of that journey. So like this guy, he kind of resurfaced, and I realized like what I've liked about, like, as much as I enjoy you, what I've liked about you this whole time is that you are a like entirely self-determined creative. He's a digital nomad. He has communities from all over the world that he like loves and pours into, makes time for. They meet in countries and they hang out. Like I was like, and he feels a sense of freedom, even though he has so much obligation. Like this man has so much obligation and has built a million businesses and like is so successful, but he feels light and free and is always choosing that. And I was like, that is what I'm trying to be. And that's why I've been attracted to you. As much as I enjoy you, there are like all these other things that don't really make sense for us in partnership way. But what I'm choosing about you is something that I contain right now, and that I'm looking to unlock, find the courage to unlock. So yeah, it was like I was kind of in that phase, and the card just made sense.
I love back to your Cancer 7th house, Leo 8th house, because, you know, 7th house, we do typically see that for like, it can be marriage, partnerships, what people like we're very partnered in, you know, in the depths with, and then the 8th house doubling down on that, right? Like where we're sharing resources, we're building a life, we're building a world, family, death, taxes, whatnot. But it's just so cool to think of that as the moon and sun too, because it just sounds like it's reflecting you. Right. And like this, like role model almost sort of thing of like, sure, I'm sure you could take care of a lot of people if you already are, you know, doing that with your friendships and community, and you know you have the Saturn shit to back it up too, right? Like these projects and you know, building something, seeing the potential, and you know, and then like I'll come back to the Jupiter Scorpio too, because it's like, you know, it can play the long game and find the ways to make it work. But I just think it's so beautiful of it, like reflecting your Taurus moon in this 5th house of pleasure and just romance and fun and like let's enjoy each other. And then of course Leo with the sun of just Aquarian, like be like a power couple sort of thing, if we're thinking of like a 1-to-1 relationship. So I think looking at our 7th and 8th house too, and like what planets are there, it's like I'm just hearing so much reflection, and that's truly what the luminaries do for us so much, is like reflect and shine all the light on like the things that we care about. Just cool shit. Astrology's real, you know.
Everything is illuminated all the time.
Everything
Everything is illuminated all the time.
Yeah.
Well, just that reminder of like, I don't want to say it's all about you in the sense that it's not also about community and caring for other people, but it is that thing that I think people forget so much in their isolation, in their loneliness, in their feeling of not belonging, that like finding yourself in as many people as possible, or in that thing too, is what kind of continues to generate us in relationship with each other, and why we need each other, because it's not just about hearing the details of someone else's life. It's also about finding qualities in yourself and
Right.
expanding all of that, sharing those things, having those things brought out of you. And I think that's like the point of relationships, or the why we need each other, is because not only do we need to like support each other because we go through difficult times, we also get to find ourselves and grow and learn and be like, we're all one. You know, we're
Totally. And that's
not
your
separate.
Yeah, and that's your source to pour from, right? It's like the more that you understand of yourself and choose things that are reflectors, they're also multipliers. I always say that. I think that like spaces that reflect also multiply.
Yeah.
And that just gives you that much more to pour from in the places that you find most belonging.
Well, and I feel like this is definitely from, you know, stuff that you post on the internet, but it is also that finding affirmation in each other instead of isolation, or instead of comparisons, instead of these things, having everything be, this is a reflection of, again, not like about me, like I did this on my own, but it is like all of these wonderful people that are around me is also because of me. Like, this is me. I call this in. I deserve this. This is because I have qualities that people want to be around too. And I think that is so hard for people to claim a lot of the time, because we do live in such a culture of comparison and competition, and it feels also just vulnerable and scary to give people that kind of power. You know, my Scorpio stellium is talking right now, to give people that power over you or with you or whatever, wherever it is, to kind of relinquish that, to let people be able to come in and hurt you or have an opinion about how you see yourself. But I think when we are coming from a place of like, this is all for me, this is all like of me, and to be able to take, like, celebrate in that, and to be like, this is stuff that I'm entitled to feel abundant because of, I think puts us in a place to be in more, to choose love, to be in community, and to feel open to each other in a different way.
Yeah, I could not agree more. That's so beautiful.
I love
that. This is from you.
Thank you so much. And again, as we say, it's all reflection. It's all reflection. That's exactly right. And I think, you know, to kind of go back to what Stevie asked earlier, I think that is above all else why I did gravitate towards both like a mode and a tool to connection, and also a career on the internet. Is that it felt as much like opportunity as possible to engage with information and thinkers and thought patterns and belief systems and ways of being that allowed space for that. And like, I think in particular also allowed that the opportunity for expansion. And I think at times in my life when it was a bit more limited. So like, when I was younger, I got into Tumblr because I was like in a predominantly white neighborhood in the suburbs, and like nobody looks like me. It didn't feel like anybody had the complicated feelings that I had that come with the identities that I had of like, I grew up like relatively non-religious. I'm biracial. I was in a military family. I never really like was in a place for too long. So I always felt this like, I'm looking for people who are like me. And then, you know, when I was in college, I was in the South for the first time really. And I was really faced again with a lot of these identities and feeling other. And that's when I again gravitated towards the internet the most. And that really kind of clicked for me when I had little else, when I was in that very like codependent, addictive phase in my life, when I felt like I couldn't see myself. I was like, if I kind of just affirm and echo the like very, very small, soft, still distinguished voice that is there telling me that there is something I know of, then it will become louder. And I like, actually looking back, I really can't believe that I followed that. It like, even right now I'm trying to like hear that voice and it feels like a whisper, but right now it's like the loudest thing that I can hear in my life is like my own internal compass. But at the time it was just like this little voice that was like, you have a story. Like, even though it's painful or it feels challenged, or like you feel like nobody gets it, like you have a story and everybody gets it. A lot of people get it, because that is what you're here for, is to remind people that their story is significant.
Well,
and like you have to do it by example.
If you thought you were playing a numbers game, New York and LA, I mean, the internet's, you know, triple millioning down on that. And it's twice as hard, because it's everything and everyone, and the negative parts of people too, and the hateful. I mean, we've all had comments on our posts, I'm sure.
Right.
We all know what
Right.
it feels like. But yeah, then
Right.
there are the other comments too that are like, I relate to this so much, like this, I found you through this
Right.
and whatever. And so it is
Right.
that numbers game.
Actually, I'm kind of curious about your guys' experience, because I have found that being a weird bitch online, meaning being somebody with like kind of weird and esoteric and like deep interests, I feel has both definitely drawn in. Obviously, you're going to get hate. You're going to people who are like, none of this is real, dumb,
Right.
whatever. But I have found it's also kind of isolated me to a place on the internet where like people kind of have to find me. Like the only way that you found me is if you kind of trickled in through other weird bitches, and we're all just here now.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if you guys have kind of had that same experience, being obviously it's like you guys have a niche and it's so specific. And it's also booming right now at the same time. So
yeah,
I think astrology and woo can be very insular. I don't think, because the thing I hear, and maybe it's from like being married to a man and also having friends who, I mean, it's kind of rare in LA to have friends that don't like astrology, but I think there's this like, well, I don't speak this. I don't understand this. And so there's like, I'm not here to participate. And then the areas where people participate are memes. They're usually the very stereotypical, you know,
like sometimes
I'm not an Aries that likes to go boxing. What's this with me? So I think it is very like, it's only, I think only when there's like a really like runaway meme is when you get the randoms coming that's like, this is dumb and sucks. But it's also like, well, that's just when anything is popular on the internet. Like it'd be insane if all the comments were pro, but I do think I think we're still, despite popularity, still so
for the most part
bubble.
Yeah.
I post like my stand-up clips, and I find that that's an area where I just, as a female comedian, just expect everyone to hate me. And so it is like, it is a niche, but it is like, I just don't even like, I don't even read it half the time, because I'm like, oh, I'm sure half of them are just saying women aren't funny and like whatever else, you know?
Totally. Well, I mean, that is niche, but it's also just so not, because everybody, well, first of all, comedy is like one of the oldest crafts, and also like people really want the level of courage that you have to get up on stage and say, I think I'm funny, and now I'm going to prove it to you. And anything that requires courage, people are going to be absolute dicks about, because that's the greatest challenge to them.
I find that it's the same in astrology too, though. It's like, I'm willing to say that I investigate myself, and I'm willing, like, that is bravery. It is to say, I believe in stuff that I can't see, and like all that kind of shit. And it's like, that is the same bravery. And so it is the same kind of like reactions that you get, or people looking for it, or, you know, because I mean, clearly, you know, you can tell from, I'm sure, any of our DMs, it's like people are also looking for, you know, women to do these things, and like creeps are also looking, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, it's like people do like Google this stuff. They look for it, they search for it, but it's also like,
it feels somehow less, I guess, like personal than the stand-up stuff, because I feel like in stand-up it is more like, I don't know, people are angrier you're there, and it's, I feel like in the astrology space, they already are like, well, that's dumb women stuff anyways.
Like,
so
they would be
disappointed.
Let
them have
they start disappointed.
Yes. All they can,
like skeptical.
All they can say is astrology is dumb. Like that kind of thing. Like it just,
you're right.
Like
and stand up there, like, you specifically suck.
It's you you specifically, women in like, you are representative of women in general. How dare you come into this,
and it's like never come back here. It's like, listen, I missed it once. Give me a fucking break. But
astrology is more like, stay in your weird corner because you guys are crazy, like that. And it's like, okay, fine, leave it.
You know what?
Us alone.
You know what the worst was, or like the worst, I think, behavior on display was when we weren't in this article, but like friends were, when the imposters were first starting to pop off on Instagram, of like people pretending to be mystical people and scam people on money. They're still out there. No one will ever DM you, hello, beloved. Just a reminder. But I just remember that LA Times article was like, well, they're grifters, so fuck them. And I was I was like, oh, right. Like, people think we're snake oil salesmen.
Yeah.
Right.
Because there are, but that's like, you could say that about any
literally
field.
anything. That's exactly right. Like you could look on a mommy Facebook group for electricians,
Dangerous,
and you're going exactly for the local electrician, and you will find somebody who is scamming. That is just true for anything where you can make money. I think people feel the worst about it because it's something that's also like connected to religion and also
right. Where they're like, it inherently doesn't exist. Is the,
I mean, male comedians are only scamming people. That's their whole thing.
Well, because everything about a male comedian's human experience he got from a girlfriend that he dated and mistreated and took her funny and used it on stage.
Of course.
So that's exactly right. And that, I guess that's not even true for male. That's just true for men. That's not even male comedians. That's just men.
Men in general.
Male comedians are just loud.
Kendra, you need you gotta hit a mic while you're out here in LA. I know. That was some little material right there.
Thank you so much. I might brush up on it.
Hey,
yeah.
We'll tell you the good ones.
Thank you so much.
Do we play a game?
I know. It's like, do we have?
We'll just have to come back, of course.
Yes, absolutely.
But before we wrap up, we like to play a little game with our guests called Marry, Fuck, Kill. Are you familiar with this game?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love this game.
All
Perfect.
right.
So we're gonna play 2 rounds. These are celebrities with your big 3. So they share your astrological placements.
There's 2 of them and they're all weird. I'm already scared. I think I've looked this up before.
It's a unique list. Let's just say that.
I'm pretty sure Jeffrey Epstein shares mine.
Oh, we weren't gonna.
Yeah, I was like, we always good. Yeah, I was like, don't worry, we don't want to put you
him in here.
Yeah, I'm like, we don't want to put anyone in these kind of situations.
Yeah,
even in the theoretical, and we would never send our friends to the island.
Stevie, you look so concerned, babe.
He's an Aries moon. Is what I just confirmed. I was just like, what is like? Okay. And he's like a 000 quirk. Okay. Anyways, we won't. No, sometimes we no. We usually we try to only play with non-canceled people, but sometimes we find out later. So just a full disclosure, like the intention was not to play with anyone.
No, totally.
Canceled.
This is happening as of August 8th. These people are not canceled.
Are not canceled.
We have yet to find out their true. Let to find out the true horrors of who they are.
The Lionsgate portal has not sucked them up. Revealed them yet. Yeah,
yes, exactly.
We'll find out. So we're gonna start first round. This round's for the ladies. So it's hard to also too with we don't always have every celebrity's birth time, so risings can be a little harder to find. But you did have one big 3 twin, which doesn't happen all the time for our guests. Which is, do you know who your big 3 twin is?
No.
Sun, Moon, Rising. Mariska Haggerty.
SVU. Good one.
Yes.
That's a really good one.
Wow.
I'm gonna be honest. That's not even a question for me. It's Mary, because she's been one of my longest running relationships.
Really?
I'm so serious. I have loved her since, like, literally SVU is the reason I decided that I wanted to be a lawyer. I have been watching her probably longest of anybody in my life, so that makes sense for me. I'm a Mary on that.
Oh my
love
god!
It.
Okay,
all right.
I love no other options have even been.
Doesn't
a period. I've already decided. I told you guys I make decisions.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
It's true.
We're gonna have to link
We're
gonna have to link Kendra up with the SVU podcast now.
Yes, with That's Messed Up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We'll talk. This round, as I said, is for the ladies. So we're playing with Mariska Haggerty. The other 2 are Aquarius suns, Taurus moons. We have Kelly Rowland and Sheryl Crow.
Wow.
Wow. Well, okay. Kelly Rowland literally is the most beautiful person I've ever seen in person. Like I feel like people have become
Where do you spot her?
It's some industry stuff.
Okay.
But she is, I think that people don't realize how unreal she actually looks, but she has the most glossy, perfect skin I have ever seen. She looks like an alien in real life, honestly.
Okay.
Honestly. Like, you're like, wow, I can't believe you're real. Like, huge eyes. Like, she's gorgeous. I'm gonna do no, actually, this is relatively easy for me. I'm going to marry Mariska, I'm going to fuck Kelly, and I'm going to kill Sheryl, and there's no question about that for me.
Okay. Someone's got to go. So it's how the cookie crumbles.
Someone's got to go. Exactly.
Oh,
but yeah, I'm really happy. I had no idea that Kelly and I were linked like that. What's her rising?
I'll report back
Let's
in just
see.
one moment.
See if we find it.
Yeah, I think it might be up there. I think she was. You guys go ahead, and I'll come back.
I feel like this is such a hard one because
this is a good group. It doesn't always happen like this.
There's no chance that I kill Kelly Rowland. That's like the thing for me because I'm like, I want to be like either marry or fuck into a Destiny's Child person. Like that for me is like, okay. But now I'm torn between Mariska
She's
and
Sag
Cheryl.
Rising, just so you guys know. So that sweetens the deal, of course.
Yeah,
Her
wow.
butt. That makes sense because her butt's amazing.
Okay.
So yeah, you know what? I think this is the thing for me is that again, I've got the cat placements with the Mary. I'm like, who am I going the long way with? Mariska has just really proven her staying power in a way.
You were loyal before anyone else came into the fold.
I also feel like you might just have the right answer because I'm like, she does such good work too, Mariska. Like
she's a great person.
Yeah, she like does a lot of stuff for actual victims and everything. And it's like, I don't know. I think I'm going the same answer as you.
Yeah. Like she's so Aquarius with it. She was like, I portrayed something and now I have to make it right in my personal life.
It is hard for me to kill Cheryl, but I'm like, I think it's the right choice. I don't know.
I just don't. Yeah, I don't. Yeah. I don't know what to do with Cheryl because
she can plank for like 50 minutes.
Well, then I have to kill her.
In that case, actually, I wish you wouldn't have said that. Wish you wouldn't have brought the planking into it. Because I do love her. I do have a connection to the music, and I know that she has also helped produce other women's music and things too, which is like not a thing that a lot of people do.
It's true. You want to soak up the sun, is what you're saying.
I do want to soak up the sun. All I want to do is have some fun.
She's a Taurus rising too, just to
she is like my husband.
That's her earthiness.
Yeah, but I also know, I do think in my heart that like I do think that you hit the right answer. Because I think the part of me that like is drawn to Cheryl is the part of me that's drawn to like every Aquarius that's like ruined me, where I'm like she's the unattainable, she's unavailable, and like she's not gonna give me what I want, and it's gonna drive me mad. And so I think the only way she's gotta go. Sorry,
okay. Cheryl Crow has 600 unread text messages.
Oh yeah, I mean, truly,
I can feel it, and part of that's because of her age, but also it's because.
Yeah. Also, I have to quickly screen share this. I don't know how I got here, just looking up Kelly Rowland's natal chart, but I mean, her response to a fan. She's since deleted, but Kelly Rowland come on my face, like my whole face, catch it. I love it.
Yes, Calandria. So, exactly.
That's
all right.
Like, she's an icon.
Wait, marry Mariska, fuck Kelly,
kill Cheryl.
Consensus. Wow. Sometimes this happens. Sometimes
there is a right answer.
Yeah, and that's it.
I feel like this is.
And again, Cheryl's done great work, and we'll all be,
rest in peace. And
you and it was hard.
I hope you're planking in your grave. You know what I mean?
She's
planking for all eternity.
Yeah,
the long plank.
Some other Aquarius Sun Taurus moons are Christian Bale, J. Cole, Matt Dillon, Gina Davis, Jackson Pollock, Jim Jarmusch, and Olivia Colman. Cool.
Gina Davis.
Hot,
I don't know why I'm so excited to hear about Gina Davis, but
I should have thrown her in the. I was gonna throw her in this girly mix, but I was like, it's already complicated enough with these three. Like Gina's just gonna throw a fucking wrench if she's in here. Like
totally
6 foot tall,
devastating.
Cradle knee. Talk about our president.
Yeah, I was like, Madam President.
I've literally, and also like literally, we've never seen bone structure like that before. And also, she invented baseball.
Or since maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Or since, and she invented baseball. And then thereby inventing feminism. So there's a lot of things that I feel good about with Gina.
Okay.
I just love her so much.
Esteemed company.
Well, and also, I'm sorry. I know this was a round for the ladies, but Matt Dillon also, I think, like
huge,
a perfect face, possibly. So a lot of good work happening over here.
Oh, yeah.
So Aquarius Sun Cap Rising. This is a random round. We have, I don't think we played with any of these people before, so this is exciting. We're gonna do it with Lauren Conrad, Elijah Wood, and Billie Joe Armstrong from Green Day.
Oh my God, this is hard in a different way.
Wait, no, this is crazy.
So these are Aquarius Sun Capricorn risings.
All these people would have been relevant to me at the same time.
There's a link. The Aquarius is doing the like conspiracy theory, connecting the dots. You don't say.
Yeah.
I'm hearing cue the American Idiot right now, that opening guitar riff.
Exactly.
We're in a flashback.
No, this is gals, this is tough.
This is maybe one of the hardest ones because everyone's bringing something very unique to the table.
I mean, I have
big
to say,
elfin energy. You just have to
right, exactly.
Like there's an elf vibe.
Totally. No, I have to say, for me, I think it's going to be Mary Elijah Wood. Marry Elijah Wood, fuck Green Day, and kill Lauren Conrad. Unfortunately, Lauren Conrad has to go because she is a Republican and has been 10 toes down in that for
really.
I was planning to kill her regardless because there can only be one Elsie.
Yeah, let's go.
And we're talking about old Shanu over here, baby.
But now that I know that, I'm like, let's take her down.
Yeah. You know? Unfortunately, she just actually is notoriously so conservative for no reason.
That's the real
Laguna Beach. That's the reason.
The real reason she didn't go to Paris.
That's right.
Yeah. She's like so dirty.
Yeah, so maybe that's strike too.
Imagine Lauren, actually the alt universe where Lauren goes to Paris and actually like changes
and wasn't a Trump supporter. Yes. No, I think so, because the thing is, that was the day that she decided to be a pick me. And once you decide to be a pick me, you care about men for forever. You're in the male gaze for forever. So I think that's when we lost her, girls. But
I'm like reading these insane roundups of like articles from 2008 about Lauren and Heidi supporting John McCain, and it's just like, oh my God, of course, but also of course.
Wow. And also a flashback to McCain girlies.
I know, like
a hilarious. Okay.
Vintage.
But then that's also reminding me of Spencer Pratt, who is a perfect person. He is literally so god awful, but then also recently, you guys, he has started a business called Pratt Daddy. I'm sure it's quite popular here in LA. It's an important space. I'm watching that space.
The content is absolutely watchable, and like the hummingbirds, he is tapped into something. Okay, I don't know. To me, I feel like I've been seeing a lot of this coming up in our witchy woo space of reminding people that like everyone can tap into magic and to everything. Like this is not
you don't have to be good.
Yeah, this is not exclusive to good people, and we need to get that out of our mind, because I feel like we give a lot of grace and we go like, oh, if you're in no one else has access to this. And
back
it's like,
to the grifters. They're there.
Anybody can step into the stream and be tapped in, and he is tapped in. So I mean, there is something.
100%.
There is something.
Dude, Lauren would hate that we brought up Spencer in her round.
She
like would
she
fucking
does
lose it. Also, Spencer and Heidi were. This is maybe a little LA local politics. They were very much pushing for Sheriff Villanueva, who's yeah, they're Republicans. They are.
They
live in Santa Barbara. They're Republicans. Honestly, should we have Spencer on? I'm sorry. Like, my brain's going places.
No, to have Spencer Pratt on the show, you guys, that would be so incredible. And I also think that he would.
We could probably FaceTime him on Instagram. Like, we could probably message him like right now, and he'd probably have.
No, we should. He would love this. First of all, he's a Leo, and the fact that you guys would just be asking, you know what I'm saying? It's all about him. You know things about him. He would love it.
Yeah. Also relevant to the Lauren Conrad situation. Capricorn rising, Spencer Pratt over here with Scorpio moon. Yeah.
Oh,
So they were always, well, now I need Heidi, which I know she's a Virgo.
It was never, they were always going to,
it was never going to work.
Yeah. They were always going to be in conflict. Okay.
Enemies.
I'm also going to kill. I think once again, there might be a right answer here as well. But
I don't know. I think I'm going the other way. I think I'm marrying Billy.
You're marrying Billy Joe?
Yeah, I'm not Elijah does nothing for me. I mean, I'll sleep with him, but just to say I did it.
Right.
Also, just a heads up, Heidi is a Virgo sun, Virgo rising, Aquarius moon.
Oh, wow.
Had to let the people know.
Wow.
The Aquarius moon makes a lot of sense. She is not here. She is somewhere, but it is not here.
I like her as the antenna that is connecting. That is how Spencer is.
She's the channel
source. She is the antenna.
That's exactly right. Oh my gosh.
So who are we?
Okay.
Again? Billy Joe, Lauren, Elijah. Got it. Okay.
You know, I don't feel strongly about Billy Joe or Elijah in a way, either sexually or like what am I marrying into? Although I do feel like Elijah, I do like this Hollywood story, but I feel like I understand. I feel like I could be a better partner to Elijah than to Billy Joe. Right. I feel like Billy Joe, I feel like we would have a good time and respect and all of this, but I do feel like there is something. I mean, I've done the Aquarius punk thing, okay, and
we all have
not a sense of humor.
Actually, literally,
it's a one-way ticket to a personal hell.
Yes, so I am like, I do think Elijah has done more like comedy stuff now and all of these things too. Now that I'm thinking,
love him in Yellow Jackets, recent Yellow Jackets appearance.
So good.
And
so good.
Yeah. I just think.
Does this do anything for you?
That actually does so much more for me. This is way better than it started.
Yeah. We
have a picture of him on a live scooter with a cig.
Well, looking first cool. Of all, he's supporting the environment, not looking cool. He's supporting the environment. He's supporting the environment. He does look super satisfied with himself. His grip is strong. He's present. He's not even listening to music. And he's
both feet firmly planted
next to each other on the scooter. Very, very suspect.
Not even one in front of the other.
I'm like, that's fixed energy to me right there.
For me is like maybe a kill. I'm like, what?
Okay. Moving everyone's needles in different directions.
Yeah. No, all right. Marry Elijah, fuck Billy Joe, kill Lauren.
I'm gonna marry Elijah. I'm not attracted to Billy Joe, which makes me maybe want to. I know this is a game. Just a reminder, I'm not condoning this behavior. I only want to fuck Lauren Conrad just so we can have that post cigarette and like. So tell me everything about the hills because she doesn't talk. That's the other part. So like now it's like the agreement being we're gonna have like an afternoon of like dish. And I know that she won't. And this is like in a world she would not want to do this, but this is a fantasy in a game, and this is how it works.
No, I think the thing is there's a chance that she's a Republican because she is gay. And the other thing is
so she might like clam dive efficiently and effectively like that. Okay, I was gonna say something maybe horrible. So I will be like that closeted like that horny repressed.
I think it's possible. She's giving nothing but repressed. Also, there is a theory because Audrina has a podcast with Brody.
Right.
And she has said that the reason why Spencer and Lauren could never really stand each other is because they fucked.
Wow.
I believe that.
They probably three-wayed and then it got messy.
It went weird. It went weird.
Also, yes, I watched all Laguna Beach, all the hills, and all of the city during August 2020. that calendar.
Absolutely.
Leo season month was just the hills nonstop. So
all of them are back on.
Mm-hmm.
All of them are back on all streaming services, so you can get right back on it.
Yes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to get the crew on. Did everyone answer?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Some
Any
other
other notables?
Aquarius, Sun, Cap, Rising. Yes, we have. These are all going to be so the opposite vibe of what was just shared. We have Rosa Parks, Leslie Nielsen, Cristiano Ronaldo, Paul Newman, Clark Gable, Brandon Lee, Tom Selleck, and John Belushi.
Wow.
Okay.
The whole
Good
classics. Yeah.
Cristiano Ronaldo, he is also married to an Aquarius sun.
Oh.
He's married to an Aquarius sun, Taurus moon. His wife is also an Aquarius sun, Taurus moon. And I only know this because I looked it up after they had their little show. Have you ever watched her show? I think it's called Hello, Georgina.
Who's his wife?
She has a Netflix special. It's called Something Georgina.
Okay.
Something Georgina.
Okay. Wife Georgina Rodriguez. Here we go.
Yeah,
she is for sure an Aquarius. Okay. I
Wait,
love
what
all these
days
like random celebrity commentary that you're throwing in as we've gone through. Most of the time people that when we play Mary Fuck Kill, they're like, I don't know who this person is. So I'm like, just amazing. Known to everyone and like
and
extra facts.
Yeah.
No, literally, this is you guys. This is my neurodivergence kicking in. This is the only thing that I know anything about.
I don't think it's
from my
true.
Wikipedia
I don't think
phase.
that's
I don't
true,
think
but
that's true. But
I'll laugh with you.
Yeah.
You're in a
from my
safe
Wikipedia phase.
You're in a safe
love
space.
it.
This is saying she's a Leo moon, but you know, these charts can be
Wait, what's her rising?
I don't know if we know. This one says Scorpio with a Leo moon. But again, a lot of the times we've had people be like, you used the wrong chart for this person. And it's actually this.
Mm-hmm.
We're in a commie. It's like, it's fine.
We so seldom see an Aquarius for Aquarius pair. And I really, really love that because they're both just so hot and so interesting. And Aquarians also aren't known for that either. Like they're always kind of like a, you know what I'm saying? Like a hometown hero character. It's like, oh yeah, I do love them, but I kind of didn't know their name, but they're everywhere. But they are everywhere in everybody's hometown hero.
Yeah.
They're holding each other's cups.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hot cups.
Love it.
Really love hot cups.
Well, Kendra, I mean, we could do this forever and we'll have to do this again because I feel like we've only just scratched the surface. And I also feel like we all need our cups filled. And this was such a affirming, wonderful experience. Yes. The Realist Oracle deck, of course. Where can people find it?
Anywhere you buy books, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, the Bezos website, preferably bookshop.org. And you can also catch me on my newsletter, come home, kendraaustin.substack.com. You can catch me at Eldest Daughter Podcast, available on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and YouTube if you want to see me in HD. What else am I doing?
And guys, you do. Just a heads up.
You do. Come on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, the thing is, they can just move from this video to mine.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll already be on YouTube.
Yeah. So it'll bring us all together.
Yes, they're already on YouTube. And if you are in New York and would love to make a new friend or a few, feel free to tap on into Third Cup, my community collective on Instagram, and follow our Geneva or our newsletter so that you get updates on events.
Yes. Thank you
so much.
Thank you
guys so much.
Thank you. This was wonderful.
A pleasure and delight.
Thank you all for listening. We are so glad you've joined us. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.